The Lucrative Hammer of the Week pick is taking the industry by storm. We're on a crazy run, cashing hammer after hammer after hammer, and even our Ladder the Hammer big long shot prop section every week on this YouTube channel. One bet, one fight, maximum confidence. Welcome to Lucrative Hammer of the Week.
It's a unanimous decision. You know we got that massive, gigantic night. The future and is the present is Lucrative MMA. Over 2.5 rounds cashes, Ian Gary moneyline cashes, easy money boys. Massive night in the elite zone. Peace and love. Bang.
Welcome back to Hammer of the Week, boys, UFC 323 edition, where I tell you the best betting spot on the entire UFC fight card, or the most confident play that I have on the fight card, or just a bet that I want to give to the people. Speaking of giving to the people, I've been giving to the people all year, specifically with this series that I put out on my YouTube channel every single week called Hammer of the Week. So make sure you like the video to say thanks and subscribe if you want to get notified as soon as the hammer drops every single week. If you bet the hammer early, you're going to make a lot more cheddar because you know Vegas is moving these lines as soon as I put out my Hammer of the Week video. We've made it almost to the end of the year. We're officially in December now, and this is the last pay-per-view of the year. Merab Dvalishvili taking on Peter Yan in a great pay-per-view offering the UFC has given us this weekend. We don't just have that bantamweight title banger, we also have a flyweight title banger with Alejandro Pantoja taking on Joshua Van for the flyweight strap. We got Brandon Moreno versus Tatsuro Taira on the card. Henry Cejudo versus the surgeon prospect Peyton Talbot. So the last 4 fights of the night are epic flyweight and bantamweight contests, which are the 2 favorite divisions of mine in the UFC. So I'm personally super excited for this card, boys, and I'm excited to drop the Hammer of the Week this week. So as I always need to say, the Hammer of the Week is a weekly YouTube show that I have, right? But I make about 15 plus bets every single week. So one thing I'll say is don't rely on the hammer, because maybe the hammer loses, but all other 14 of my plays win, right? Then you're going to be angry that you only watched the video. If you want to get all of my 15 plus plays that I bet almost every single week, then you can hit the link down in the bio. It's sublaunch.com/lucrativemma. You're going to get everything and VIP access to my group there. Don't rely on the hammer, because I don't rely on the hammer. Now, this card is not an easy card to pick a Hammer of the Week. I'm not going to lie. And as you know, if you watch my last video, the full card breakdown of UFC 323, I was in sunny Spain on holiday. Now I'm all the way back in cold, snowy London, and I've been doing my research while in Spain, while in London, to give you the Hammer of the Week. And I think I have come up with the best selection on the entire card. So without further ado, I'm going to show you who this week's Hammer of the Week is.
Time to get back to work. Time to pay a visit to my old stomping ground.
There we go, lads. There it is. Jalen Turner at odds of -285 is this week's Lucrative Hammer of the Week. So I know what you're thinking, boys. Lucrative, why are you choosing Jalen Turner as your Hammer of the Week? This guy literally retired after his last fight. He's coming back from retirement, taking on a UFC veteran with high-level wins like Edson Barboza. Well, I'm going to tell you exactly why I'm choosing him. Boys, in my opinion, Edson Barboza is the washed one here. Edson Barboza is the one that we need to be worried about here, not Jalen Turner. Look, Jalen Turner did show some dodgy vibes after his fight and during his fight with Ignacio Bahamondes, right? Where he tapped to a triangle choke extremely fast in round 1, and then he retired subsequently after. He's now gone on to actually say that he has found God, found Jesus, and he has a new lease of life, right? So all of these things in general are not good looks, but let's not focus on the negatives with Jalen Turner. Let's focus on who his opponent is, because at the end of the day, if Jalen Turner was fighting a homeless man on the street who had never trained jiu-jitsu, MMA, or striking in his life, Jalen Turner would wreck him, right? So his opponent is very, very important in this scenario, not only himself, right? And his opponent is a very good fighter, first and foremost. Edson Barbosa, all respect to you, legend of the game to some degree. But he is also 39 years of age in a very lightweight. He's also moving up to the lightweight division for his second fight there in more than 6 years. He did a 5-year stint at featherweight, and now at 39 years of age, he wants to move up to lightweight. And if we go back and look at his last fight, which was his second debut in the UFC at lightweight after 5 years at featherweight, he looked terrible. He looked career worst when he took on Drakkar Klose. Drakkar Klose is not known as a dangerous fighter, as a power puncher. He's a good all-round fighter, right? But he was rocking Edson Barbosa all over the place. A couple of times when Drakkar Klose had Edson Barbosa up against the cage and he was landing some short-range shots, I honestly thought Edson Barbosa's brain switched off for a second. I thought his Klose landed a couple more strikes, he could have knocked out Edson Barbosa, and that's not something that Drakkar Klose usually looks like he's going to do. So that was a massive red flag for me, boys. Edson Barbosa, in my opinion, has been on a big downslide for many, many years. And yes, Jalen Turner did not perform well in his last fight. And yes, Jalen Turner has lost 4 of his last 5 matchups. But there's a lot of context we have to put in those matchups, boys. At the end of the day, that 4 out of 5 loss run started way back against Mateusz Gamrot in a fight that I thought he won on damage. A split decision loss to Mateusz Gamrot. He then took on Dan Hooker, who's been a perennial top 10 contender in the lightweight division. And what happened in that fight? A split decision loss that arguably he won. He could have beat Gamrot and Dan Hooker on another day if there was a couple of different judges there. And still, one of those 3 judges on both nights scored the fight for him. He then took on Bobby Green and destroyed him. One of the most brutal KOs in UFC history. So that was his win. He then took on Renato Moicano, again, a top 10-15 perennial contender in the UFC lightweight division who demolished Benoit Saint-Denis, who's on a crazy run and might fight for the title in the next year or 2, right? And what happened in that fight? He dropped Renato Moicano brutally. And yes, he kind of succumbed to the grappling threat of Renato Moicano, because that is one place you can beat Jalen Turner. The grappling. Go back and look at his fight against Matt Frevola, where he's losing a lot of those grappling scenarios. Go back and look at his last fight against Ignacio Bahamondes, where he's losing the grappling scenarios. Go back and look at the Dan Hooker fight and the Mateusz Gamrot fight, where he's losing via grappling. So boys, you can beat him via grappling. He almost got a walk-off KO in that fight, though. That is what really happened. And then his last fight against Ignacio Bahamondes, in my opinion, the worst look of them all, but he retired after. His mental was not right. His mental was not right, boys. He has now come and said he has a new lease on life. He has found Jesus. He has found God now. So while I would usually say that was a red flag, in the case of Jalen Turner, I'm going to say it's a green flag, or at least a neutral flag. Boys, at the end of the day, man, when I break this fight down stylistically, Jalen Turner has too many weapons on the feet. He is too young. He is too fast. He is too powerful, too accurate, and too precise, and too big, and too physical, and large, and long, and rangy. Too much of a reach advantage. Too much of an athleticism advantage and skill. Not advantage, but too much skill on the feet for Edson Barbosa at this point in his career. He's an aging veteran. He's 39 years of age. I know he hasn't been finished that much because he's a tough old son of a bleep. But I think in this fight, it comes to an end. I think his streak of not being finished comes to an end, man. If we go on a flip side and look at Edson Barbosa's record and put some context into that, which I'm not going to go through every fight on the record, but I'm telling you now, there's a lot of effing context I can put in his wins and losses, boys. Sadiq Youssef fight, I don't know how he didn't get finished in that fight. Lerone Murphy fight, Drakkar Klose fight, how did he not get finished? His brain switched off multiple times in the octagon. I watched the fights, boys, and then rewatched them in preparation for this week's bets that I send out to my VIP group every week. The Billy Quarantillo fight, I thought he was going to get finished dead set in the fight, and then he gets a great knee. There's a lot of context, boys. So Jalen Turner is this week's lucrative hammer of the week, but don't go anywhere yet, because I'm going to give you some more bets. This time, some juicy bets. So every single week, boys, I give you a hammer of the week play, which you've just got. But I also give you a section called Ladder the Hammer, right? Where we try to ladder our main Hammer of the Week play with some juicy props. We have been destroying it in the last few weeks. And to be honest, since I started this Hammer of the Week series, we're currently batting at a 6-2 record, which is a 75% hit rate. And we're only 8 fights in. Let's bump up that 75% hit rate and try and get it to 80. Try and get it to 85. And I believe we're going to do that this week. Not only have we hit the Hammer of the Week, but we've hit the Ladder the Hammer plays. For example, last time we had the Hammer of the Week video, I gave you Ian Gary and Ian Gary via decision and Ian Gary via unanimous decision and Ian Gary minus 3.5 point spread. Every single one cashed 4 for 4. The week before that, we had Carlos Prates and Carlos Prates via KO and Carlos Prates via KO in round 2 plus 650. All free cashed, 3 for 3, 100% hit rate. Don't make me go back to the Melissa Croden one where we cashed plus 1300 prop on Croden round 3. Like, we've been on fire, boys, and I'm looking to do it again. Before we get into the Ladder the Hammer section, I want you to comment your Hammer of the Week down below. And if you cash, if you get a good Hammer of the Week, I'm going to shout you out on next week's episode. Before we get into the props, let's look at some great Hammer of the Weeks that people commented last week that cashed. I'm going to shout out Thomas Rincor, who absolutely crushed it with his Hammer of the Week. He called Volkan Ozdemir Moneyline as the main Hammer of the Week play. He then laddered it with Volkan Ozdemir via TKO and laddered it with Volkan Ozdemir TKO in round 1. All 3 of those cash with ease. It looked like a great bet. Congratulations on your hammer hitting. I want to shout out Simra Large, who said Cortez Acosta versus Shamil Gaziev under 2.5 rounds. That looked like an absolute lock in that fight. Gaziev put on the pressure, and within about a minute or 2, he was knocked unconscious. So shout out to you, a great hammer. My man Birdie Golf TV Canada saying that I helped him win 7,000 on Carlos Prates TKO round 2 and TKO in one of our recent Hammer of the Week. So well done, bro. Glad you cashed. Be smart and use that cheddar. Join the VIP. Shout out to my man Demon566. He's hammering Arman versus Hooker under 4.5 rounds, along with the fight ends via submission, along with Sarukin in round 3. So he missed out by 1 round, but man, that was a big cash. So congratulations to you. A couple other honorable mentions I'm going to put on the screen now. Can't shout out everyone. Lots of comments, but I picked some of my favorite ones there, boys. So like I say, comment down below if you want to be featured on the next episode. All right, lads. So let's take a look at some props that we can ladder the hammer with in our section, Ladder the Hammer. Like I said, make sure you understand that our main Hammer of the Week and our Ladder the Hammer section are not all of my bets, right? I'm making 15 plus bets every single week. And if you want to get access to them and access directly to me, join my VIP, the Lucrative Elite Zone. Sublaunch.com/Lucrative MMA and join the most winningest team in all of MMA betting, boys. The Lucrative Elite Zone. You can join down below. But boys, Ladder the Hammer section. So this is an easy one for me, man. I mean, Jalen Turner does not have a decision win on his record. Literally, every single win of his entire career has been inside the distance. Every time the fight has gone to a decision, 4 times, he's lost. Now, to be honest, I thought 3 out of those 4 he could have won a decision in, and definitely 2 out of 4. But at the end of the day, he hasn't won a decision. There's a reason for that. He's a very fast starter. He starts very fast. For those 2 rounds, man, those first 2 rounds or first 8 to 9 minutes, he is a force to be reckoned with, but he can slow down because he's so big for the weight class. He's so athletic. He's so aggressive. So why would we play his money line at minus 285 odds when he's never won a decision? Why would we play him to win via decision? Why would we play anything like that? We're going to play him to win inside the distance. We're going to play Jalen Turner via KO or submission. Jalen Turner via stoppage is going to be our first rung of our ladder, but we're not going to stop there. We're going to try and hit the 3-piece, boys, as we've been doing back to back to back to back in the last few Ladder the Hammer sections. So boys, I think Jalen Turner is going to come out there and put it on Edson Barbosa from minute 1. He knows no other way. The only way Jalen Turner comes out here in a more reserved approach is if he's completely changed after retirement and mentally he's not there, or if his newfound faith and religion is for some reason making him be reserved, which, you know, is a possibility. I think if those 2 things, which are less than likely based on Jalen's historic career, I think it's going to go one way, and Jalen Turner's going to put it on Edson Barbosa in round 1 and finish him in round 1. Now, I'm not going to get cheeky and go with a knockout or submission, and I think a lot of people are going to do that this week. The reason I'm not going to do that is because Jalen Turner can easily submit Edson Barbosa with a guillotine choke or a rear naked choke in this fight. I truly believe that. I think he can hurt him, and Edson Barbosa maybe gets wobbled or shoots into something, and then he can get his neck snatched up. So I'm just going to play it safe and play Jalen Turner in round 1. So that's it, boys. Main moneyline play, Jalen Turner moneyline minus 285 odds. On rung 2 of the ladder is going to be Jalen Turner inside the distance. And our final at the top rung in the ladder is Jalen Turner to win in round 1. So that's it, boys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let's try and keep this crazy run going, which at some point has to stop, but let's not make it this week. Let's try and hit yet another hammer of the week at UFC 323. So happy fight week, boys. Hope you cash as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.